Good day, future teachers. In this clip, we're going to be going over volume 2 of our CBEST mathematics test prep, numbers 1 to 5. We're going to be focusing on measurement, statistics, and estimation. All right, so question number 1, just like number 1 in the volume 1 series, we're going to be looking at how to find the average of a data set. It reads, there are 7 Algebra 1 classes in El Campo High School. Each class has the following number of students: 35, 32, 40, 43, 34, 36, and 39. Question: what is the average number of students for the 7 algebra classes? Alright, so let's get started by writing down what the formula that will guide our problem solving process is, and then we'll apply it to this problem. Okay, so the formula for calculating the average of a data set is as follows. The average is the sum of the elements in the data set divided by the number of elements. Remember, we have all the must-know formulas for the CBEST test at our website at mathgotserved.com, so you can check it out and master them so you can do only a test. All right. Okay, so in this problem that we're dealing with right now, what are the elements that we're looking at? So the elements that we're looking at are the number of students in the Algebra 1 class. So we have 35, 32, 40, 43, 34, 36, and 39. All right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. All right, so these are the elements that we have. So we just need to find the sum of the elements and the number of elements. So we can easily find out the number of elements. Number of elements in the data set is basically how many numbers we have here. Okay, so if we count them all, we'll find out that we have a total of seven numbers, and it's also indicated in the problem that there are 7 Algebra 1 classes. So sometimes you can refer to the problem to determine the number of elements in your data set. All right, so what are the sum of elements? So the sum of elements, we just basically add up all these numbers together. Alright, so since calculators are not allowed for the CBEST exam, we're going to have to carry out this summation manually. Alright, so let's just pair them up. 35 plus 32, we can sum those two up. That gives us 67. And then 40 plus 43, that gives us 83. And then we have 34 plus 36. And then let's just tack on 39. Add all these three together. 4 plus 6 is 10. 19, 9, carry 1. 3 threes is 9, 10, 109. All right, so now we're just going to add these three sums together. So we have 109 plus 67 plus 83. So 3 plus 7 is 10, plus 9 is 19, 9, carry 1, and then we have 7 plus 8. 7 plus 8 is 15, 5 carry 1, 259. Okay, so the sum of elements is 259. So we have everything we need to calculate the average. We have the sum of elements and the number of elements. So the average, let me just set up my work here. What we did is we said 35 plus 32 plus 40 plus 43 plus 34 plus 36 plus 39. So this basically represents the sum of elements, and we're dividing that by the number of elements, which is 7. Okay, so the numerator component of this quotient has already been computed here. That's what we did on the side, which was 259. And we'll divide that by 7. Okay. All right, so let's go ahead and do the division. We're going to use long division here, since we can't use a calculator. So we have 259. The top those Underneath the division symbol, we have the 7 on the outside. 7 goes into 25 3 times. 3 times 7 is 21. And then if you subtract that, you have 4. Bring down the 9. And then 7 goes into 49 7 times. 7 times 7 is 49. And then when you subtract, you get a 0. So subtract that. So you have 0. All right, so 259 divided by 7 is 37. All right, so the average number of students in the 7 Algebra 1 classes is 37. The answer to question number 1 is option letter C. All right, so we have a question for you. In this problem that we just did, when we're computing the sum, what we did is we paired up the numbers into 2 pairs, and then we had a triple here. So the question is there a faster way to find the sum of these 7 numbers? Let us know in the comment section below what approach you think is the fastest way to find the sum of these 7 numbers right here. All right? Alrighty, let's take a look at question number 2. In question 2, we're going to be assessed on how to calculate a percent of the whole. Okay? Alright, so let's see what we have here. Question number 2 reads, it says, use the table below to answer the question that follows. The 4 computer labs in Boise High School were examined by the tech department to see which computers needed to be updated. Shown in the table above are the computer lab numbers of computers that needs updates, and the total number of computers. What percent of computers in Boise High School computer labs needs to be updated? All right, so we want to find the computers that need to be updated expressed as a percentage of the entire number of computers in the school. Okay, so let's go ahead and write down the formula that will guide our problem solving process. So the formula for calculating part of a whole, formula for percent of whole, is given by percent of the part that you want to find with respect to the whole is the part that you desire divided by the whole. So that gives you the fraction of a whole, okay, in fraction form. If you divide it out, it gives you the part of the whole in decimal form. But when you multiply it by 100, that converts that fraction into percent form. Okay, remember, if you're going from decimal to percent or fraction to percent, you just multiply by 100. That's what this is. All right, so let's go ahead and adapt this formula to this particular problem. Okay, so in this particular problem, we're looking for percent that needs updated. Now, that needs updating. Okay, percent that needs to be updated, or let's just say percent that needs updating. If we want to express that as a percent form, it's going to be the part that we desire, which is basically the number of computers that need to be updated. So number that needs to be updated. This is the part, and we're going to divide it by the whole. So what is the whole in this scenario? The whole basically represents the total number of computers. Okay, so we're going to divide the number of computers that needs to be updated by the total number of computers. Now this will give us the fraction of computers that needs to be updated. To convert that to percent, we'll just multiply our answer by 100. Okay. All right, so let's find the 2 missing pieces in this equation, and then we can go ahead and solve it. We just need to find the number of computers that need to be updated and the total number of computers. Okay, so to find the number that needs to be updated, number needs to be updated, all we just do is find the sum of these numbers in the middle column right here. Okay, so it's going to be 13 plus 30 plus 15 plus 17. Okay, 7 plus 3 is 10 plus 5, that's 15. 5 carry 1. 1, 2. 2 plus 3 is 5. 5 plus 2 is 7. 7. Okay, so the number of computers that needs to be updated is 75. And then we also need the total number of computers. Okay, so total number of computers. What are the total number of computers here? The total number of computers is 30 plus 40 plus 20 plus 60. Okay, and we'll find the sum. We have 6 plus 4 is 10 plus 5, that's 15. So there are 150 computers in all. So let's go ahead and plug in these two values into our formula. The numbers that needs to be updated is 75 divided by the total number of computers, which is 150. And then we'll multiply that by 100 to convert it to percent form. All right, let's go ahead and do this. Now, if you notice, 75 is a multiple of 150. 75 times 2 is 150. So we can divide this by 75. That gives you 1. And divide 150 by 75. That gives you 2. And 2 goes into 100 because 100 is even. So 2 goes into itself 1. 2 goes into 100 50 times. And your answer is 50%. Okay, so 50% of the total number of computers in Boise High School needs to be updated. All right, so the answer to question number 2 is option letter E. All right, in question number 3, you're going to be assessed on how to calculate skill drawing measurements. All right, question 3 reads, use the diagram below to answer the question that follows. So we have a ruler here, and we have a model of a truck, and the question reads, if the actual length of the truck is 48 feet, then what is the scale of the diagram of the truck? Okay, so what is the scale that can be used to convert the measurements on paper to the actual dimensions of the truck? All right, so you need to be careful here. One common mistake that most students make is they'll just focus on the end of the truck and match it to the ruler. Okay, and they say, oh, you know what? The back of the truck corresponds to 5 units. So 1 unit, so 5 units on this truck will correspond to 48 feet. But is that correct? The answer is no. If you take a look at this situation right here, the truck is not placed on the 0 position, okay? This is the 0 position right here. So had it been that the tip of the truck were right here, then it will be correct. But in this particular case, so what we're seeing is 5 units equals 48 feet is incorrect. Well, what's the correct approach? Well, that's the back of the truck. When you're using skill drawing, you want to make sure that you align not just the back of the truck, but you also want to align the front of the truck also. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. If we want to align the front of the truck, change my color right here, you notice that the front of the truck lines up with the 1 unit mark on the ruler. Okay, so if you're going from 1 to 5, how many units is that? 5 minus 1 is just 4, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's 4 units. That's the span of this model truck using the ruler that we have here. So you have to be really careful to make sure that you align it properly and start from the correct starting point. Okay, so based on this diagram that we have, we know what? We know that 4 units on the ruler corresponds to 48 feet on the actual truck. Okay, so if you look at the options that we have here, they want to know what is 1 unit equivalent to. Okay, So what is 1 unit equivalent to? So you notice that we have 4 units on the left side of the equation. How can we change 4 units into 1 unit? What we're going to do is we're going to have to divide both sides of the equation by what? In order to make this 1, we have to divide by 4. And since we divided the left side of the equation by 4, we have to do exactly the same thing on the right side, okay? In order to preserve equality. So 4 divided by 4 is 1. So 1 unit is going to be equal to what? We have to divide 48 by 4. Let's do that using long division. So 48 divided by 4. 4 goes into 1, 4 times 1, 4. 0 bring down 8. 4 goes into 8. 2 times 4 is 8. Okay? So 4 goes into 48 12 times. You can use long division, or you can just divide 4 here 1 and then 8 2. Alright, so 1 unit is equal to 12 feet. So that is the correct answer for question number 3. So answer to number 3 is option letter D. Alright, so question for you is as follows. What is the importance of skill drawing and the mathematics involved in it? So if you're an expert on this, or if you have any insight as to what the importance of skill drawings and the calculations are in the real world, please specify it in the comment section below for the benefit of other viewers. Thank you. All right, let's take a look at question number 4. In question number 4, we're going to be looking at how to identify the correct unit for a specific type of measurement, okay? All right, so question 4 reads, which of the following is the most appropriate unit for expressing the amount of sand in a fully loaded dump truck? Alrighty, let's take a look at question 4. Alright, let's take a look at question number 4. In question 4, we're going to be taking a look at how to identify appropriate units. Question 4 reads, which of the following is the most appropriate unit for expressing the amount of sand in a fully loaded dump truck? Okay, so one thing to keep in mind is when you're identifying correct units, you have to consider the context and also where you're living in. So in this particular problem, we're going to be thinking about the United States, how these particular units are used in the United States, okay? All right, so let's take a look at these measurements. First, we have pounds, ounces, quarts, pints, and tons. So if you think about what context you use these particular units, then it's extremely easy to determine what the correct answer is. So for example, the first two are commonly used for weights, to measure weights. They can also be used for volume or mass, but it's commonly used to measure weights in the United States. So units of weight. Now, when do you use pounds? If you think about going to the gym, or if you stand on a scale, that's when you use pounds. And when you use ounces, ounces is used for something like a pencil, right? Something that's really light, or if you're measuring the weight of a coin or a piece of precious metal, like gold, for example. So these two are appropriate measures for weight, but pounds is for something a little bit heavier. So like measuring a person's weight. Or think about the weights that you're lifting in the gym. And then ounces is more appropriate for lighter weights, okay? So lighter weights like a coin, precious metal, or like a pencil, something like that. You use an ounce to express the weight. Okay, so we can clearly see that these two are not appropriate for this particular problem, because for a fully loaded dump truck, we're thinking about volume. All right, now these other three measures are more appropriate for expressing volume. So when you think about quarts and pints, you think about volume of what? Think about volume of liquids. These two are excellent for measuring volume of liquids. So one is bigger than the other. So these two are for liquids. If you think about quarts, quarts is basically a quarter of a gallon. So a quart is 1/4 of a gallon. So if you're thinking about the measurement of the volume of water or milk, then you could use the unit of quarts. Okay? But pints is much lighter. When you see the word pints, what comes to mind? Pints is much smaller than much smaller than quarts. Pints can be used, if you think about the context, can be used for measuring the amount of blood, for example, is used. The unit of pints is used for that. So a pint is basically 1/2 of a quart. Okay, which basically means that it's 1/8 of a gallon. So you see that pints are much smaller than quarts. Okay, so what's thinking about quarts, you're thinking about volume of things like volume of liquid like milk, right? And then for pints, you're thinking about something like the volume of liquids like blood, much smaller than the quarts consideration. Alrighty. Okay, now that leaves us with the last one, tons. This is really, really heavyweight. Okay, so C and D are basically too light to be applied to this scenario that we're looking at right here. Tons is the excellent choice, is the most appropriate unit to measure the amount of sand in a fully loaded truck. Okay, so think about the context. We're talking about sand in a loaded truck. We're talking about volume, and sand is not a liquid. Sand is a solid. So in the context of the measurement of sand, basically a freight, something that's been transported, tons would be an excellent unit to consider. Okay, so when you're thinking about shipping sand, for example, the unit that will be used to calculate the cost will be how much tons you have, and you'll be charged per ton. 1 ton in the context of transportation is equivalent to 40 cubic feet, or 1.133 meters cubed. All right, so the best measurement for something like sand loaded in a dump truck, something very, very heavy and occupies a lot of space, is going to be option letter E, which is tons. Alrighty, let's take a look at question number 5. In question number 5, we're going to be assessed on unit calculations and conversions. In volume 1 of this review series, we're looking at problems involving measures of length. We're looking at feet and inches calculations and conversions. In that problem, we talked about how to convert from inches to feet. Right, so in this particular example, we're going to be looking at time, the units of time, and how to go from seconds to minutes. All right, let's read the question. Question number 5, Mr. Duran needs to interview all of the 5 students in his class. He desires to spend 11 minutes and 25 seconds with each student. Question, what is the total amount of time needed to interview all 5 students? All right. So we have 11 minutes and 25 seconds per student. Okay, so if you have 11 minutes and 25 seconds per student, then how much time do you need for 5 students? So this is for 1 student, right? So for 5 students, the time that you're gonna need for 5 students is you just simply multiply it by 5, right? So all we just do is just multiply this time factor by 5, okay? So we'll multiply it by 5, then we'll know how much time we need for 5 students. So if we carry out the multiplication, remember we're not allowed to use a calculator for this test, so we just have to do it by hand. So multiply the minutes by 5, that'll give us 55 minutes. And then we'll multiply the seconds by 5. So 5 times 5 is 25, carry 2. 5 times 2 is 10, and then you add a 2 there, and you're going to have 125 seconds. All right, so basically what we did, think about it as though we're distributing this 5 to the 11 and also to the 25, so distributing the 5 here and here, okay? And then when we carry out the distribution, it just becomes, we have 5 times 11 for the minutes part, right? That's for the minutes. That's what gave us 125, and then we'll have 5 times 25. That will be for the seconds part. That gives us 125 seconds. So this is the time for 5 students. All right. Okay. So now, what is our answer going to be? Well, we have a problem here, ladies and gentlemen. We have 125 seconds. So if you think about your clock or a watch, a digital watch, the second slot cannot go all the way to 125. All right, it tops out at 59. So we have to carry out some kind of conversion here. We have to basically focus on our seconds, and since it's bigger than 59 seconds, we have to convert the seconds to minutes. Okay, so what's our conversion factor? You want to recall that 60 seconds is equal to 1 minute. So there are some minutes in this seconds here. So this is a combination of minutes and seconds. So let's see how many minutes can we extract from 125 seconds. So to do that, we're going to have to do long division. All right. So we're going to take 125 and divide by 60 in order to convert it into minutes, and the remainder will be our seconds. Okay. All right. Let's go ahead and divide. All right. So how many times does we're looking at the 2 digits? Okay. So we look at 60 and 120. So if you think about your multiples of 60, 60 times 1 is 60, 60 times 2 is 120, and goes on and on. So how many times does 60 go into 120? 60 goes into 122 times, because 2 times 60, I'm sorry, how many times does 60 go into 125? So 60 goes into 125 2 times. 2 times 60 is 120. Okay, and then we'll subtract that. We're left with 5. So what does this answer tell us? This answer basically tells us that 125 seconds is equivalent to 2 minutes. That's 120 seconds, and remainder 5, which is seconds. 5 seconds is not enough to be converted to minutes. You need 60 seconds to convert to minutes. Okay, so now that we have converted this part, 125 seconds, into minutes and seconds, we're gonna now add it on to this unit that we have over here. Okay, so what is 55 minutes plus 2 minutes and plus 2 minutes and 5 seconds? What is that going to be? So we just add corresponding units that match, right? So we're gonna just combine the minutes part, 55 and 2, those are the minutes, and then just bring down the 5 seconds component. All right, if we carry out that addition, that's going to give us 57 minutes and 5 seconds. So this is the total amount of time needed to interview all 5 students. Okay, so the answer to this question is option letter E. Thanks so much for taking the time to watch this presentation. Really appreciate it. If you found the contents of this tutorial helpful in your preparation for the CBEST test, do give us a thumbs up or like. Your positive feedback is very valuable to us. Do not forget to subscribe to this channel. We're going to be updating it with tons of math tutorials, so subscribe so you can stay in the loop. If you want to gain access to the entire review series and other great math resources, just visit our website at mathgotserved.com. If you have any questions or comments, just put it in the comment section below, and we'll be more than glad to support you. Thanks again for watching and have a wonderful day. Goodbye.